A destitute fisherman plunges into the tumultuous waves, his heart racing as he spots a girl struggling to stay afloat, desperately clinging to the remnants of a sinking yacht. He was completely blindsided. She was the daughter of a millionaire, a truth he never saw coming. The storm consumed the darkness, wrapping the world in its fierce embrace. The wind shrieked like a tormented beast, lashing out at the sails of Ethan's modest fishing boat as it lurched and pitched amidst the towering waves of the tumultuous sea. The rain poured down in icy sheets, a blinding torrent that showed no mercy. He clenched his jaw, his fingers wrapped around the wheel with such intensity that his knuckles turned a ghostly white. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, to race back to the safety of the shore before the relentless ocean claimed yet another piece of his very essence. He was on the brink of his destination, the air thick with anticipation. The faint orange glow of the harbor flickered through the thick haze, a distant beacon, when suddenly the radio crackled to life. The air hung heavy with an electric tension, a palpable stillness that seemed to vibrate with unspoken energy. Suddenly, a voice pierced the silence. "Is anyone out there? Welcome to Serenity. The engine has vanished. Water is pouring in around me. Someone, please, help me." The transmission severed abruptly, engulfed by a cacophony of static. Ethan stood motionless, his heart pounding in his chest. He twisted the dial with a sense of urgency, adjusting it meticulously, yet the voice remained elusive, shrouded in silence. Only the wind howled, a cacophony of static and chaos swirling around. He paused, uncertainty gripping him. Another wayward heir, adrift in a sea of privilege, pretending to command a vessel worth millions, he mused. Yet, as the realization struck him, he found himself steering the boat headlong into the tempest. The vessel shuddered, its bow rising defiantly as it collided with yet another towering wave. Driven by an instinct that overrode reason, he pressed forward, eyes straining against the relentless sheets of rain. Then, through the tempest, he caught sight of it, a ghostly flicker of orange cutting through the darkness. There it was, the ominous silhouette of a yacht, perilously tilted, with smoke billowing ominously from the lower deck. "You mean, or I said you." "Serenity," he whispered, his voice barely breaking the stillness of the night. He lunged ahead, gripping the wheel with fierce determination. As he approached, a flash of lightning illuminated the scene for a fleeting, chilling moment. The yacht lay partially submerged, its stern dipping perilously beneath the waves. Clinging desperately to the rail was a figure in a drenched white shirt and shorts, fighting against the relentless swell to reach the lifeboat that seemed just out of grasp. Ethan acted on instinct, his mind a blank canvas in the heat of the moment. With a fierce determination, he seized the rope, shed his heavy coat, and plunged into the depths below. The water lay like a dark abyss, frigid and suffocating, choked with remnants and slicks of oil. With a fierce determination, he drove his foot forward, cleaving through the air with a power born of experience. As she felt herself slipping, her grip faltering, he arrived just in time. "I've got you," he shouted, his arm encircling her just as her strength faltered and her body began to collapse. Silence hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. She remained still, her lips pressed together, offering no reply. With each powerful stroke, he drew her closer, until they finally reached the brink of his boat. With sheer strength and a surge of adrenaline, he lifted her, his chest rising and falling with intensity. She crumpled onto the deck, her body going limp as darkness enveloped her. She clutched her ankle, wincing as she tried to put weight on it. The railing's sharp edge had left its mark. Her skin was as cold as ice, her lips tinged with a haunting shade of blue. Her soaked clothes hung heavily, dragging her down as she shivered in the cold. "God damn it," Ethan muttered, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. He pulled her into the dimly lit cabin, enveloping her in a rough wool blanket that felt both warm and suffocating. He ignited the emergency heater, positioning it close to her, before sinking down beside her, the flickering flames casting shadows that danced around them. Her eyes fluttered, a tantalizing hint of awakening, yet remained sealed in darkness. He tore a strip of fabric from his shirt, hands trembling as he carefully wrapped her injured leg. Her pale face and shaky breaths told him all he needed to know. Time was running out, focusing instead on the task at hand. The depths were shallow, yet chaos reigned supreme. She let out a soft moan, the sharp sting of pain piercing through the fabric of her days. "Yeah, sweetheart, I bet it hurts," he murmured, his calloused fingers deftly securing the bandage. He leaned back, his gaze fixed on her, the firelight dancing across her delicate features. In her mid-20s, she possessed an air of youth, her features strikingly fine and delicate, exuding an aura of elegance that hinted at a life of luxury. A delicate gold necklace clung to her throat, its shimmer catching the light in a way that hinted at untold stories and secrets yet to be revealed. "Figures," Ethan muttered, a bitter edge lacing his words. Another pampered heiress, utterly out of her depth, believing the ocean is merely a backdrop for her next social media post. The wind howled fiercely against the hull. He observed her breaths, each one slow and shallow, and despite his resolve, a gnawing worry began to take root within him. "You're lucky I was close," he said, his voice low and steady, not anticipating any response. "Out here, when you go under, there's no one to save you, especially not for someone like me." Silence lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive. Still nothing. He reached up, his fingers brushing against her forehead, cool to the touch yet not perilously so. She would be okay, as long as the storm didn't intensify. She stirred once more, her head turning toward him, her lips parting just a fraction. "I didn't want to die like my father," she whispered, her voice so faint that he nearly missed it. Ethan's gaze locked onto the scene before him, his mind racing as he struggled to comprehend the unexpected turn of events. She faded into the depths of unconsciousness. He let out a deep breath, leaning back against the cold wall, his fingers tangling in his drenched hair. The storm outside howled with fury, unleashing its wrath upon the world. Within the dim confines of the cabin, a girl who had danced with death clung desperately to life. Ethan Hale, a fisherman worn down by hardship and burdened by his own reluctance, found himself seated beside a stranger. He didn't know her name, yet the weight of her existence now rested, inextricably, within his grasp. Morning crept in, the pale light seeping through the clouds and casting a soft glow into the small cabin. Ethan sat at the table, cradling a cup of lukewarm coffee, lost in thought. The storm had finally relented, yet an icy grip lingered in the air, seeping into the drenched walls and tightening around his weary joints. The girl lay in a deep slumber on the cot, cocooned in a wool blanket, her damp hair cascading over the pillow like seaweed washed ashore. Then she stirred, her eyes fluttering open, confusion swirling within them as they darted around the cabin, finally locking onto him. "You're safe," Ethan said, his voice low and rough, cutting through the tension like a knife, without a hint of a greeting. "Fortune smiles upon you, a rare stroke of luck indeed." With a deliberate effort, she pushed herself upright, each shift of her body met with a chorus of protests from her weary muscles. "Where am I?" The question echoed in the depths of my mind, a haunting whisper that sent shivers down my spine. Shadows danced around me, and the air was thick with uncertainty. Every breath felt heavy, laden with the weight of the unknown. I strained to piece together the fragments of my surroundings, but clarity eluded me like a fleeting dream. "The vessel that carries my dreams across the water. And you're welcome," he said, placing the mug down with a deliberate motion. She blinked at him, her gaze drifting to her bandaged leg, the neatly folded blanket, and the cup of water resting beside the cot. "You rescued me from the brink of despair. I pulled you out of the ocean," he said flatly. "What you do next is up to you." A heavy silence hung in the air. "I'm Isla," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence. Ethan remained silent, withholding his name like a secret locked away in the shadows. Instead, he rose to his feet. "You can remain here for a few days as you await someone to retrieve you, but be warned, do not lay a finger on anything unless I give you the command." With a single, deliberate nod, she bit her lip, a flicker of uncertainty dancing in her eyes. By midday, she found her rhythm, her movements becoming more fluid and assured. Despite the limp that slowed him down, she was relentless in her determination to assist him with the chores. Ethan let out a derisive scoff, the sound hanging in the air, yet he chose silence over confrontation. He thought she would surrender after just 5 minutes of struggling with the heavy nets, yet she chose not to. She diligently scrubbed the deck, brewed surprisingly good coffee, and posed thoughtful questions about the traps and the tides, as if she were genuinely invested in the world around her. As he watched her deftly tie the knots, a flicker of intensity ignited in his gaze. "You've walked this path before," he whispered, a shadow of recognition flickering in his eyes. "I studied marine biology," she said, her fingers deftly adjusting the rope, the salty breeze tugging at her hair as the waves crashed rhythmically against the hull. "Amidst the vast expanse of water, I found myself aboard boats, navigating the unknown during field surveys. I've navigated the depths of salt water before." He remained silent, yet a profound change stirred within him. As dusk settled in, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, they dropped anchor close to the reef. "Your leg's still broken," he remarked, a shadow of concern flickering in his eyes. "I can handle it," she asserted, her voice steady and unwavering. He observed her struggle across the deck, determination etched into each painstaking step. Out by the coral shelf, Ethan caught a flicker of movement, a whisper of life beneath the waves. A sea turtle, ensnared in a web of stray netting, struggles for freedom near a jagged cluster of rocks. In an instant, before he could even process what was happening, Isla sank to her knees, her hands swiftly retrieving a pair of gloves and a diving knife from the depths of the supply bin. "What do you think you're doing?" he snapped, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "I know what I'm doing," she declared, her feet barely grazing the surface as she plunged deeper into the water. Ethan swore under his breath, his heart racing as he plunged into the depths after her. The current flowed with a soft yet unwavering rhythm. Isla glided through the water with a dancer's grace, her foot striking out toward the turtle, a flurry of bubbles swirling in her wake. She remained calm. She remained still, her composure unbroken. She remained still, her composure unbroken. With a steady hand, she approached the creature, cradling its flipper with care as she prepared to make the incision. Ethan lingered in the shadows, eyes fixed intently on the unfolding scene. With swift precision, she liberated the turtle in mere moments. With steady hands, she deftly maneuvered the vessel away from the treacherous reef, each movement infused with purpose and tranquility. Back on the boat, drenched and gasping for air, Isla wiped the water from her face and fixed her gaze on him. "Are you all right?" she inquired, her voice laced with concern. His gaze lingered on her, a heavy silence stretching between them. He admitted it with a hint of reluctance, acknowledging her deft handling of the situation. Her smile broke through the tension, a rare and genuine light that he had never witnessed before. "I warned you, I am not without purpose." He averted his gaze, concealing the subtle shift within him, a flicker of vulnerability that dared to emerge. Perhaps she possessed great wealth. Perhaps it was a mistake for her to venture out here by herself. Yet she was far from useless. For the first time, Ethan Hale found himself engulfed in uncertainty about the girl he had drawn from the depths of the water. Isla lingered far beyond what either of them had anticipated. The harbor lay silent, a ghost of its former self, still reeling from the storm's fury. Days stretched ahead, each one heavy with the weight of uncertainty, as the next supply boat to the mainland remained a distant promise, just out of reach. Ethan spoke little of it, yet there was an unmistakable reluctance in his demeanor, a quiet hesitation that suggested he was not eager for her departure. She honored his silence, yet filled the stillness with subtle actions, offering to help with the cooking, lending her hands to mend the nets, and scrubbing the deck with determination. She was relentless in her determination to accompany him on his daily voyages across the water. To his astonishment, she matched his pace effortlessly. They navigated the still morning waters, their oars slicing through the glassy surface as they gathered plastic bottles, tangled nets, and discarded wrappers that floated by like echoes of lost hope. Isla donned a sun-faded ball cap that Ethan had lent her, her hair pulled back tightly with a simple piece of twine. Her hands throbbed with blisters. She bore her burdens in silence. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, the sky ignited in a warm golden hue, casting a spell over the tranquil sea. Its surface glimmered, reflecting the light like a sheet of molten glass, inviting secrets from the depths below. Ethan and Isla found themselves a few miles off the coast, adrift near the coral reef where the waters shifted from vibrant emerald green to an enchanting translucent blue. Ethan was meticulously checking the traps when Isla's finger shot out, directing his gaze to a small but frantic disturbance in the water. "There," she whispered, her breath mingling with the salty air as she leaned over the side of the boat, eyes wide with wonder. Ethan squinted, his heart racing as he caught sight of it. A sea turtle, majestic yet trapped, its powerful front flippers thrashing desperately against the suffocating grip of a fishing net. It had probably lingered for hours, perhaps even longer. The tangled net had trapped the turtle's flipper, leaving it struggling to break free. In silence, Isla rose to her feet, her fingers deftly sliding into a pair of gloves. With a determined grip, she seized the diving knife from the supply crate, then vanished beneath the surface of the water. Ethan's lips parted, a desperate plea ready to escape, but before the first syllable could take flight, she was already plunging into the depths below. He crept to the precipice, eyes locked on the unfolding scene below. She glided through the water as if it were her true home, exuding confidence, serenity, and a mastery honed by countless hours of practice. Her movements flowed with a deliberate grace, each action a seamless note in the symphony of her surroundings. With a soft touch, she drew near to the turtle, her hand resting on its shell to provide reassurance. The other hand moved with precision, slicing through the entangling netting with careful, deliberate strokes. Ethan's fingers clenched the boat railing with a fierce intensity as he observed the unfolding scene. She was more than skilled. She was forged in the fires of relentless training. This was not the first time she had ventured into the unknown. In mere moments, she broke the surface, water cascading down her face, the turtle now liberated, gliding effortlessly into the depths, its journey tranquil as it made its way back to the reef. Back on board, drenched and gasping for air, they sat shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the turtle as it slipped away into the endless blue. "You know exactly what you're doing," Ethan said at last, his voice laced with a mix of admiration and caution. Isla cast a glance his way, her cheeks aglow with the kiss of the sea breeze. "I should," she said, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Since the day I tossed my cap into the air at graduation, I've plunged into the depths of marine conservation." Ethan arched an eyebrow, his gaze fixed on the shimmering surface as he cast his line into the depths once more. "You don't seem like the type," she chuckled, her voice a gentle whisper that danced in the air. "What kind of creature is that lurking in the shadows? The type who toils relentlessly under the sun, pouring sweat and determination into the earth. Many simply scribble a check, snap a photo beside a turtle, and deem it their act of giving. I attempted that once," she confessed, her voice laced with a hint of regret, "but it felt as though I hadn't truly earned a thing." As twilight descended, they found themselves on the beach, huddled close to a flickering fire. The tantalizing aroma of grilled fish danced through the air, intertwining with the wisps of smoke that curled upward. Above them, the sky transformed into a deep violet canvas, and one by one, the stars began to pierce the darkness, revealing their shimmering secrets. Isla reclined on her elbows, the warm sand clinging stubbornly to the cuffs of her jeans. Ethan gazed into the endless expanse of the ocean, his eyes mirroring the flickering flames that danced in the twilight. "I once adored the sea," he murmured, a distant look in his eyes. "Believed I would weave my entire life around its endless embrace. I embarked on a journey into the world of marine navigation, rising to the pinnacle of my class. A scholarship for overseas study awaited me, a golden opportunity on the horizon." Isla spun around to face him, her eyes wide with astonishment. "What transpired?" He shrugged, his features obscured by the flickering glow of the flames. "My father fell ill, and I had no choice but to return and handle everything. The family boat, once a vessel of dreams, now lay in disrepair, while bills loomed like storm clouds overhead. The sea, once a sanctuary of adventure, transformed into a relentless taskmaster, demanding more than it gave." He halted, gathering a fistful of sand, watching it cascade through his fingers like time slipping away. "The ocean once embraced me with the promise of freedom, but now it looms like a relentless force, a vast expanse I must navigate to survive." Isla fell silent for a heartbeat, then her voice broke through the stillness, laced with intrigue. "Funny," she mused. "For me, it's the opposite. Ethan's gaze locked onto her, his brow arching in curiosity. From the moment I drew my first breath, I was enveloped in a world of ease and anticipation, where each moment of my existence felt meticulously planned, as if I were a dancer in a grand performance. Yet, the ocean, it stands as the solitary realm where no one dictates my identity. No one cares who I am. Only the relentless currents, the whispering wind, and the heavy silence. He studied her expression, searching for something hidden beneath the surface. It held a raw truth, laid bare and unguarded. But no one ever takes me seriously, she continued, her voice laced with frustration. They catch sight of the yacht, the family name emblazoned across it, the wealth that surrounds me, and they jump to conclusions. Just another privileged girl dabbling in causes. It's not merely a cause to you. It's everything, she whispered, her voice now a gentle caress. Yet I've come to realize that not everyone is invested in your passions. They only see the shadows of your origins. Ethan nodded, casting a piece of driftwood into the flames, where sparks soared into the night like miniature constellations. People don't always get to choose their currents, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Sometimes you're just fighting to stay afloat. She cast a glance in his direction, her eyes glimmering with a blend of sorrow and reverence. And then, for what felt like an eternity, they sat in silence, an unspoken bond enveloping them, not awkward or uncertain, but profoundly shared. The silence enveloped them, thick and palpable, as two souls from starkly contrasting realms stood on the precipice of understanding, each molded by forces both immense and wild. In that fleeting instant, the titles crumbled, and with them vanished the anger, the doubt, the assumptions that had once clouded the air, once mere shadows of their former selves. The broke fisherman and the runaway yacht girl had transformed into two souls adrift in a vast sea of emotions. They hovered in the delicate space between their haunting pasts and the tranquility of the present, summoning the strength to embrace stillness, united in their journey. The evening unfolded in a hushed serenity, a tranquility that Ethan had grown to cherish ever since Isla had entered his life. The air hung heavy with salt, the sky transitioning from soft lavender to a profound indigo, while the waves cradled the boat in their familiar, soothing embrace. In the dim light of the cabin, he wrestled with the tangled lines, his hands moving deftly as the radio suddenly erupted with a jarring crackle, slicing through the silence with an urgent voice that demanded attention. The search intensifies for Isla Monroe, the daughter of the powerful shipping magnate Victor Delmar. She vanished without a trace when her yacht, Serenity, mysteriously slipped off the radar during a solitary coastal expedition, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and growing concern. Ethan's fingers stilled, caught in a moment of tension. The name struck him with the force of cold steel. He pivoted toward the radio, his heart racing as the voice echoed the details once more, each word heavy with urgency. A desperate search unfolds for the missing heiress, as hope hangs by a thread. A substantial reward beckons, igniting a fervent quest for any clue that could unravel the mystery of her disappearance. Whispers of photos spread like wildfire, Coast Guards sprang into action, and the entire eastern seaboard braced itself, tension thick in the air. Isla Monroe, with a forceful shove, he sent the radio crashing to the ground, the sound echoing in the tense silence before he stormed up onto the deck, his footsteps heavy with purpose. Isla crouched near the bow, her fingers deftly working to untangle a cluster of old rope ensnared in one of the nets. As he drew closer, he caught her gaze, her hands brushing against her shorts, a gentle smile dancing on her lips. But Ethan's lips remained a tight line, betraying no hint of a smile. "Your name," he said, his voice low and firm, cutting through the tension like a knife. "Isla Monroe stands before you." The smile wavered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing the face. "Ethan, let me unravel this for you. Let me illuminate the truth." His voice cut through the air, sharper than ever. "Unravel the truth of how you've been sharing my boat, laboring alongside me, engaging in deep conversations about life, as if you were just another soul navigating the same waters, all the while concealing the reality of your deception." "I wasn't lying," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence. "I kept it to myself." "That's not a difference that matters," he snapped, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. With deliberate grace, she rose to her feet. "I never craved the spotlight, nor did I wish to be paraded around like a celebrity. Becoming Miss Monroe was never my desire. All I ever desired was to become Isla. For the first time, he fixed his gaze on her, a tempest of hurt and fury swirling in his eyes. "You allowed me to believe you were merely a lost girl," he said, his voice low as he stepped closer, the tension thickening in the air. "You pretended to understand the depths of struggle, the relentless battle for something truly meaningful, but you carry the name of Monroe. You've had everything handed to you." Her voice quivered, yet she remained resolute, unyielding in her stance. "Do you truly believe that wealth simplifies existence? My father dictates every move I make. My mother has vanished from my life. For years, I've poured my heart and soul into seeking something that truly matters, something that belongs to me. Just when I finally grasp a moment of serenity, when I feel truly seen for who I am, you shatter it all, throwing my vulnerability back at me. I should have seen it coming. You shared your past with me," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "The dreams that were suffocated beneath the weight of debt and obligation. I felt no sympathy for you. I held you in high regard." He cast another glance her way, but this time his expression had turned icy, a fortress of caution surrounding him. "You are the very essence of everything I fought to escape for so long. The lavish parties, the allure of privilege, the hollow smiles that masked the truth. You strode in here as if you were ready to embrace the role of the destitute for just a fleeting moment, to indulge in your whimsical sea escapade, and then retreat back to the comforts of your true existence. It is the undeniable truth." Silence loomed between them, heavy and acrid. "I never sought rescue," she murmured, her voice barely above a breath, "but now, I find solace in your choice. Not because I couldn't exist without you, Ethan, but because for a fleeting moment, I believed I could truly embrace who I am." Silence enveloped the moment, heavy and unyielding. He stood there, words trapped behind his lips, a storm brewing in his eyes. With a swift motion, she delved into her pocket, retrieving the necklace crafted from sea glass and twine, a precious gift from him just 2 days prior. With a swift motion, she unclasped it, extending her hand towards him, the air thick with anticipation. "At dawn, I will set forth on my journey." He let it slip through his fingers. With a tender touch, she set it on the table's edge, close to him, then turned away. Her footsteps echoed softly, each step measured and heavy, as if every movement was a decision she longed to avoid. It wasn't until she stepped into the solitude of the cabin, hidden from view, that the tears finally broke free. Even then, she pressed her hand against her mouth, desperate to silence the sound of her unraveling, unwilling to let him witness her collapse. Outside, Ethan stood solitary on the deck, the necklace sprawled between them like a shattered bridge. Its reconstruction a mystery neither dared to unravel. The waves rocked the boat gently, yet within him, a tempest raged, fierce and unrelenting. As Isla stepped away from the dock, an eerie stillness enveloped the air, amplifying the weight of her departure. Silence enveloped her, a heavy shroud, as the rhythmic splash of oars cut through the stillness. Alone in the small dinghy, she propelled herself toward the distant outline of the mainland, each stroke a silent farewell to the world she was leaving behind. Ethan stood at the precipice of his boat, arms crossed and jaw clenched, his gaze fixed on the horizon with an intensity that spoke of unspoken turmoil. He let her walk away, silence hanging heavy in the air between them. He let her go, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air between them. As she vanished into the swirling fog, a weighty sensation lodged itself in his chest, an unnamed burden that gnawed at his very core. Upon returning to the city, Isla sensed an unsettling shift in the air around her. It felt unnaturally pristine, a stark contrast to the gritty remnants of the sea that lingered on her skin. Yet, the moment left no room for hesitation. As she crossed the threshold of her family's penthouse, the weight of reality bore down on her, shattering the fragile facade of normalcy. Her father loomed before her, a figure of strength and authority, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that radiated an air of dominance. "You've brought shame upon this family," he declared, his voice cold and devoid of any welcome. "Can you grasp the message the media is conveying?" "I never asked them to speak," she replied, her voice laced with an unyielding resolve. You vanished without a trace, he snapped, his voice laced with urgency. Your actions triggered a search operation. Your actions have tarnished our name. No more field work, no more side projects. This was the final decree. A line had been drawn in the sand, and the air crackled with the weight of finality. You will reclaim your position on the Monroe Foundation Board, immersing yourself in the intricate web of the company's affairs. I was doing something real, she whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence, as if the weight of her words hung in the air, thick with unspoken truths. He averted his gaze. Dreams have faded, step into maturity. It's time for you to step into maturity. As dawn's first light crept over the horizon, Ethan slipped back into the monotony of his existence. He cast his line into the still waters, the chill of the morning air biting at his skin. The rhythmic sound of mending nets filled the silence, a solitary task that echoed his isolation. Meals were taken in solitude, each bite a reminder of the emptiness surrounding him. At night, he lay on the same worn cot, the drips from the roof a constant lullaby, a haunting reminder of the life he had resigned himself to. Yet, everything had transformed. The sea had lost its calming embrace. The waves had fallen silent, their whispers extinguished. They served as haunting echoes of everything he had tried to forget. His net returned empty, the water mocking him with its stillness. His curses grew louder, echoing in the silence around him. He steered clear of the cove where they once lingered, lost in the cosmos above, and the sea-glass necklace she had abandoned weighed heavily in his hands. A haunting reminder he could not bear to discard. As twilight descended and the last rays of sunlight bathed the dock in a warm, golden hue, an unexpected package appeared, shrouded in mystery, a message without a trace, a sender lost to the shadows. Only his name, scrawled in deep, shadowy ink. Within its pages lay a notebook, tattered and water-stained, bound by a fraying loop of twine. With a deep breath, he slowly pried it open. Sketches that whisper secrets of the soul, whispers of thought, fragments of verse that dance on the edge of imagination, intricate diagrams of sea creatures, rendered with a delicate yet assured touch, adorn the pages, capturing vivid scenes from their shared days beneath the waves. With him gripping the tiller, she leaned over the edge, her fingers brushing the surface of the water as she reached for a turtle. Their boat glided silently beneath a vast sky, a tapestry of shimmering stars overhead. At the back, a single page lay torn, its edges crisp and folded with precision. Her handwriting flowed with quiet confidence, each stroke deliberate and unwavering. Your gaze unveiled the ocean's depths to me. It's etched in my mind, an image I can never escape. Your reminder has illuminated what truly holds significance in my life. Even if our paths never cross again, I must tell you that you ignited a transformation within me, perhaps even reshaped my very essence. Ethan's gaze lingered on the page, the words blurring into a haze as time slipped away around him. The sea lay tranquil beyond the window, yet an unsettling shift lingered in the air, as if, across its vast expanse, another soul was gazing at the same horizon, haunted by the regret of having released their grip too soon. The moment Ethan laid eyes on her once more, she emerged from the swirling morning mist along the dock, her boots caked in mud, a satchel hanging from her shoulder, and her hair neatly braided, a picture of determination and mystery. She was a shadow of the woman who had once departed. Without the allure of designer clothes or the weight of expensive luggage, she moved with a quiet determination that spoke volumes. I came back, she said, halting just a few feet from his boat. I understand I may not be worthy of your attention, yet here I am drawn back by the call of the sea and the echoes of what we began together. Ethan remained silent, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. He stood there, arms crossed, a fortress of defenses around him. I want to help, she pressed on, her voice steady and determined. I came across the ambitious project you were envisioning. Transformative educational programs for children, the revival of our precious reefs, and the promise of sustainable fishing practices. I want to fund it, he said, raising a brow in intrigue. With the allure of Monroe's wealth. With my own, she insisted. With a decisive move, I parted ways with my shares in the company. I turned my back and walked away, the weight of my decision heavy in the air. I stand before you not merely as Monroe's daughter. I stand before you, a steadfast believer in your mission. His gaze drifted beyond her, fixated on the distant horizon. I don't need your charity, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Her voice remained steady, unwavering in the face of uncertainty. This is not an act of charity. It is a powerful alliance. I will immerse myself in this place, engage in every task the community undertakes. And if, after a month, you still believe I am an outsider, then I will take my leave. It was a daring proposition, and he couldn't help but admire it. Yet, it took him an entire week to finally relent, and she was resolute in every word she spoke. Isla settled into a quaint, weathered shack nestled close to the heart of the village. She immersed herself in the rhythm of the kitchen alongside the women, her hands deftly working to mend the fishing nets, and eagerly joined the dawn excursions that beckoned her out to the vast, mysterious sea. With unwavering determination, she rallied local school children for shoreline cleanups, igniting their passion for the ocean. As twilight descended, she immersed herself in the intricate world of coral ecosystems, sharing her knowledge and inspiring young minds. By candlelight, she poured her heart into writing grants, driven by a vision of a brighter, cleaner future. Ethan observed from a distance initially, his caution palpable, yet with each passing day, she gradually won over their trust, and his as well. He started to lower his defenses, allowing her to slip back into his world, piece by piece. Side by side, they toiled under the sun, mending weathered boats, nurturing seagrass to breathe life into the ocean floor, and resurrecting a dock that the last storm had mercilessly torn apart. The project expanded, taking on a life of its own. Thus, their bond flourished, silent yet profoundly anchored in a collective struggle, transcending mere shared experiences. Then the blow struck. A shocking headline erupted across the regional media, capturing the attention of all who dared to glance at it. A billionaire's daughter finds herself entangled in a world far removed from her opulent upbringing, as she embarks on a daring romance with a local fisherman. This unexpected connection is not just a fleeting affair. It serves a greater purpose, aimed at revitalizing the image of an ambitious eco-project that could change everything. As the tides of love and ambition collide, the stakes rise, and the true cost of her choices begins to unfold. The article featured hazy images of Ethan and Isla, their laughter echoing through the air as they shared a meal with the village children. It charged Isla with twisting the narrative for public relations, portraying Ethan as a complicit player in a meticulously orchestrated rebranding scheme. What intensified the situation? A media outlet, under the ownership of Oceanus Resorts, a fierce rival of Monroe's once mighty empire, unleashed the article into the world. The backlash erupted without warning. Journalists descended upon the beach like a relentless tide. As the shadows lengthened and doubts crept in, the volunteers who had once fervently supported them found themselves questioning the very mission they had dedicated themselves to. "You used him," a local woman declared, her arms crossed defiantly as she fixed her gaze on Isla during the tense meeting. "We became woven into the fabric of your tale." Ethan remained silent throughout the tense confrontation. He remained impassive, a silent sentinel as the murmurs swirled around him. Under the cloak of darkness, he faced her with a storm brewing in his heart. "You should have known this would happen," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, laden with a weight that hung in the air between them. "It was inevitable. You should have seen it coming, the way they twisted it all into a spectacle." "I didn't leak anything," she insisted, her voice trembling with a mix of defiance and fear. "Not a single word escaped my lips to a reporter." His gaze fell upon her, heavy with exhaustion and the sting of betrayal. "But they discovered our hiding place, and now they're pulling every secret into the muck. Trust has slipped through my fingers like sand, leaving me isolated in a world where doubt reigns supreme. Suspicion hangs heavy in the air. They don't trust us. Please let me make it right," she implored, her voice trembling with urgency. He shook his head, a silent storm brewing within him. "You claimed you had shed the Monroe name, yet the world continues to view you through that lens. And perhaps, just perhaps, I don't know where you end and they begin." She flinched, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Do you truly believe that?" "In the depths of my mind, a thought begins to stir," I don't know how to be anything but a mere footnote in your tale, he confessed, his voice heavy with resignation. And I refuse to become that, not once more. As the night enveloped her, Isla slipped away silently, tears glistening in her eyes. A heavy uncertainty weighed on her heart. Would she ever find a place to return to? Or was this the end of her journey? Isla slipped away into the shadows, her silence echoing in the stillness. Silence enveloped the dawn as her boots crunched against the gravel, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the stillness. With one last glance back, she vanished down the road, swallowed by the golden light of sunrise. The villagers awoke to an unsettling silence, the small rented cabin standing empty, save for a few hastily scribbled notes left behind for the children she had nurtured and taught. Yet she chose not to step back into her father's realm of gleaming glass towers and hushed boardrooms. Instead, she ventured further, plunging into the heart of the archipelagos where names faded into obscurity and the relentless tides marked the passage of time. In a new guise, she embarked on a fresh journey, immersing herself in the world of grassroots researches. Together, they delved into the mysteries of reef resilience, working tirelessly to aid local fishing communities in their struggle to rise from the devastation of storms. She uttered few words, toiled tirelessly, and concealed her narrative behind the enigmatic smile of one who had mastered the art of evasion without truly fading away. In the heart of the village, Ethan sought to replicate the same fervor. He stepped back onto his weathered boat, the familiar cadence of fishing enveloping him once more, as nets danced in the water and solitude wrapped around him like a shroud. But the water now held an unfamiliar essence. With each crashing wave, a memory surged forth, pulling at the depths of the soul. Every gust whispered the haunting question of what could have been. The project they had embarked upon lingered in a state of incompletion, a haunting reminder of what could have been. The children ceased their visits, and while the sea provided sustenance, it offered him no solace. One fateful morning, an envelope appeared, mysterious and unmarked, yet adorned with the unmistakable official seal of the International Oceanic Conservation Forum. A formal invitation arrived, beckoning me to take the stage as a special guest at the grand closing ceremony of their annual global conference, set against the vibrant backdrop of the mainland. He gazed at it, a swirl of confusion enveloping his mind. He had not taken the step to apply. He had failed to submit anything. Yet, he ventured forth. Curiosity pulled with an intensity that overshadowed any lingering fear. In the shadowy recesses of the grand hall, Ethan lingered backstage, his heart racing. Clad in the sole blazer he possessed, he clutched a printed speech, the words not his own, yet heavy with expectation. The air crackled with anticipation, and he could feel the weight of countless eyes waiting just beyond the curtain. A towering woman, clipboard in hand, flashed a smile that seemed to pierce through the air, utterly unaware of the unease that gripped him. As his name echoed through the air, a wave of applause surged, enveloping the room in a thunderous embrace. He approached the podium, squinting against the harsh glare of the bright lights. 100 faces loomed before him, each one a silent witness to the unfolding drama. A diverse assembly of scientists, students, journalists, and conservation leaders gathered, each driven by a shared passion for discovery and preservation. His gaze fell upon the printed speech, the words dancing before his eyes, each line pulsing with unspoken promise. With a deliberate motion, he folded the paper, the edges crisp and precise, before slipping it into the depths of his pocket, a secret now hidden away. "I was never meant to end up in this place," he started, his voice gravelly and filled with unspoken weight. "I'm merely a fisherman, navigating the vast, unpredictable waters of the sea. More hours have slipped through my fingers mending nets than crafting a single word. Yet, there was a shadowy figure who dared to submit my story. A person who once whispered to me that the ocean still held secrets waiting to be uncovered." He halted, the air thick with anticipation. At that moment, doubt clouded my mind. Pride held me captive, a fear of the unknown gnawing at my resolve. Yet, she was undeniably correct. He wove tales not of graphs or funding, but of dawns spent hauling trash from the shallows, of the urgent struggle to free turtles ensnared in nets, of laughter that danced over plates of fish and rice, of witnessing a woman kneel in salt and sand, her devotion to the sea far surpassing any mansion's allure. I shoved her aside, he confessed, believing I was shielding my own heart. He looked up, a storm brewing in his eyes, as he whispered, I thought I'd drown if I let someone like her in. Yet, I succumbed to the depths, enveloped in a haunting silence. The room hung in a heavy silence, as if time itself had paused, holding its breath in anticipation. In the shadows, just beyond the curtain, Isla observed him intently. With her hand gripping the strap of her bag, she stood frozen, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She had slipped into the shadows, her heart racing, unaware that eyes were upon her. She had arrived with a singular purpose, to ensure the story reached its destination. Yet, his voice ensnared her, drawing her deeper into its captivating embrace. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, tears streamed down her face, not born of anguish, but rather from a flicker of something that resembled hope. The sun had just begun to peek over the horizon when Ethan stepped onto the beach, on that familiar stretch of sand, where a year prior he had rescued a woman from the tempest and brought her aboard his boat. He could never have imagined how profoundly she would alter the course of his existence. The shoreline came alive, a vibrant tapestry of tents and fluttering flags that danced in the breeze. Amidst a flurry of activity, volunteers moved with purpose, positioning swim buoys with precision, organizing baskets brimming with donated towels, and warmly welcoming the timid first-timers who stepped into the vibrant atmosphere of the event. The sign loomed large, declaring, "Waves for all, swim day for adults who've never touched the ocean." Ethan had once been haunted by the depths of the water, a fear that gripped him tightly. Not its depth, but the weight of what it could endure. Now, he stood ankle-deep in it, barefoot, sleeves rolled, a whistle around his neck, not as a fisherman, not merely surviving, but as someone who truly belonged. He had transcended the ordinary. He was no longer merely Ethan Hale. He had become the community ambassador for the Coastal Preservation Initiative, a renowned conservation movement that had its roots in one broken net, one stubborn heart, and one impossible girl. Though she had vanished into the shadows of time, his heart remained tethered to her essence, an unyielding echo that refused to fade. As the wind howled across the churning waves, the laughter of children echoed like music, their tiny hands eagerly gathering shells along the shore. Sea turtles emerged from the depths, their heads breaking the surface like familiar faces greeting an old companion. He scanned the throng of people, feeling the weight of the moment in the air. Dozens of adults stood at the water's edge, anxiety etched on their faces. Some grasped their children's hands tightly, while others clung desperately to borrowed life vests, their hearts racing with uncertainty. His team wove through the crowd, their voices rising above the murmurs, igniting sparks of hope and determination in those they encountered. In that moment, his gaze locked onto her. Initially, she appeared as a mere silhouette against the vast expanse of the dunes, her hair dancing wildly in the wind. Barefoot and adorned in a linen dress that billowed like sailcloth, she stood alone, no sunglasses to shield her eyes, no guards to protect her, no entourage to accompany her. Just her, Isla, a figure of intrigue and solitude. He stood motionless, caught in a moment that felt like an eternity. She approached the water with deliberate slowness, her gaze fixed on him, each step hesitant at first, but gradually gaining confidence, a gentle smile gracing her lips. It wasn't merely the smile of the girl who once plummeted from a burning yacht. It was the radiant smile of a woman who had rediscovered her true direction. Ethan advanced, closing the distance as he met her in the shimmering shallows. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said, his voice laced with uncertainty. "I wasn't certain you'd still want me around," she whispered, uncertainty lacing her voice. His gaze locked onto hers, an unbreakable connection sparking between them. "Your presence lingered with every breath I released into the vastness of the waves." She gazed at the swimmers trailing behind him, their joy and nerves intertwining like salt dancing in the sunlight. "You achieved it all, every dream you ever held close to your heart." He slowly shook his head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "Indeed, we did. You were the whisper of the wind when I was frozen in place, the relentless tide that urged me onward." Isla fought against the surge of tears that threatened to spill over. His fingers brushed against hers, a silent invitation hanging in the air between them. Fury coursed through me as he spoke, not out of disdain for your identity, but from the deep-seated belief that I fell short of your expectations. A deep fear gnawed at me, the haunting thought that I would forever find myself gazing up from the shadows, trapped beneath the weight of others. As she squeezed his hand, a chill ran down my spine, and I feared you might never glance back again. He ventured deeper into the water, the tide swirling around their ankles like a living entity. The ocean had almost claimed my life, he murmured, his voice a gentle whisper. Yet from its depths, it brought me you. Silence enveloped her. She trailed behind, each step heavy with unspoken thoughts. Waist-deep in the gentle waves, they stood, their faces locked in an intense gaze, the world around them fading away. If I drift again, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, I want it to be toward you. She nodded, tears cascading down her cheeks, swept away by the relentless salt wind and the warm embrace of the sun. A hush fell over the scene, the absence of a crowd palpable, yet curious eyes on the shore began to stir, drawn to the unfolding spectacle. In the heart of the ocean, two souls stood together, the rhythmic roar of the waves enveloping them like a protective shroud. There were no sparkling diamonds or elaborate gestures, just the raw, unfiltered essence of their journey, a testament to every challenge they had faced and conquered side by side. Isla's hand found its way to his chest, her palm pressing against the warmth of his heartbeat. This, she declared, is the only compass I need now. As she leaned into him, their foreheads touching, the tide surged forward, a soft murmur of promises yet to be fulfilled. As the sky ignited in hues of gold, children danced in the shallows, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic crash of waves, steady, eternal. In that fleeting moment, suspended between the haunting echoes of the past and the tantalizing whispers of tomorrow, Ethan and Isla, two souls once adrift, rediscovered one another amidst the shimmering tide, not because the sea had offered them salvation, but because they made the daring choice to swim back together, defying the depths that sought to pull them apart. If this tale ignited a spark within you, if it echoed the truth that even the most unexpected currents can unite souls, and that restoration often comes wrapped in kindness, patience, and the gift of a second chance, then you have just glimpsed the essence of what we at soul-stirring stories hold dear, the profound strength of genuine connection. Ethan and Isla faced a tumultuous journey filled with challenges at every turn. It was chaotic, flawed, and rife with tempests, yet ultimately it was undeniably authentic. Perhaps that is the essence of love, not defined by our origins, but by the journey we choose to embark on together, hand in hand. If you crave tales that ignite your heart, elevate your spirit, and perhaps even draw a tear from your eye, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. In a world drowned by chaos, let us remind you that amidst the clamor, beauty still lingers in the silence, and hope dances like light upon the waves. Join us on this exhilarating journey and let your heart set sail into the unknown.